blessed unity.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Self-Love Show. We're fashionably late. You know how we roll. I am joined by my lovely, lovely co-host on Light and Miss Toree Love. Oh, I'm so happy to be here with you both, and I'd love to share a little bit about Toree Love. And let's read her bio. Tori is a devoted sexuality mentor who works with individuals and couples to help them explore, discover, and unlock their untapped sexual and erotic power. She is experienced in the holistic sexual and healing arts and lends a beautifully balanced and gentle approach to helping folks explore and break through self-limiting beliefs, fears, and social mores so they can live an unbridled life of their dreams. Tori is a holistic health practitioner, a graduate of ISTA, the International School of Temple Arts Practitioner Training Program, and completed 2 years of clinical sexology studies. She also volunteers as a mediator for the Restorative Justice Mediation Program to help promote healing and communications between victims and offenders to ultimately reduce the recidivism rate of at-risk youth. Tori has participated in over 15 years of transformational work, including 10 courses at WorldWorks and the Landmark Forum and the Communications Course Curriculum at Landmark Worldwide. She is committed to helping her clients move past fear and shame to experience new levels of freedom. She assists clients in identifying and fulfilling their personal vision to empower them to step into the life they want to create. And of course, I will drop in Tori's links all over the place so that you can find her.
Thank you, and thank you, Dawn. Thank you both for having me on the show today. I'm very excited to be here and talk about this subject that is very near and dear to my heart. And so yeah, thanks for having me here.
Yeah. Oh, we're so excited to have you here and really appreciative for the work you offer in the world. Like, I think this is such a valuable piece around helping people free themselves from the shame that they've experienced in their world, especially around, self-pleasure or sex, right? Because it can imprint one in a really not healthy way and then affect them later in adult years, and I can speak for myself as an empowered woman, and I have a beautiful relationship, but it took me a long time to cultivate that and heal from deep trauma in my own life. And really, I watched my parents play out a pattern of sex and money, and there was a lot of shame, that I'm sure they both held that created that dynamic. And then my brother and I were exposed to that deeply. And so I can only speak for myself, but I've had to peel deeply the layers around what that was. So I really have a lot of respect for people that have desire to help others shift that out of their, out of that world. And I do that same work with my clients, with the women I've coached. Like, there's sometimes some really deep things that come forward around shame pieces, and it's everything. When we can free ourselves from where we hold shame, it brings back empowerment into ourselves. So thank you for doing this work. And I'm so curious, tell us more about, what brought you this, into your life, and where this really comes from for you.
Yeah. Well, it really stems back from having these amazing parents that were so super sex positive and really showed me through their playfulness with each other and through their love for each other that, sex was fun and playful and enjoyable and meant to be heard. Like, it wasn't this thing that was closeted. And they unabashedly chased each other around the house and were just so in love with each other and so attracted to each other. And I just remember thinking, as I'm listening to my parents in the next room, like, I am going to like that when I grow up. Like, that just sounds like fun. Like, that sounds like a good time. And that sounds great. So for me, I just grew up in a home that was so sex positive. And we were constantly talking about sex. And typically at the dinner table, we would talk about sex. And it was common. And if my parents weren't talking about their sex, they were talking about the sex that my aunt would have and the neighbors listening to them or whatever. It was just such an open topic in our family. And as I was growing up and I started to meet, other people and we started to talk about these things in life, I realized that not everybody grew up like I did. A lot of people grew up like you did, Dawn, where parents are fighting or they're arguing about sex or not having sex and I really believe that, sex is relationship lubricant, right? It's like, it keeps things smooth. And when sex isn't happening, it just makes everything else feel like such a rub. I mean, at least it does for me. I can only speak to myself. And I also want to speak into a bit about pleasure as not just, achieving an orgasm or getting ourselves to this bliss out state. I want to speak into self-pleasure and like what actually brings you pleasure. Does it bring you pleasure to go on a walk by yourself on the beach and feel the sand beneath your toes and the waves hitting your ankles? Like, to me, that's self-pleasure to me too. Like, that is grounding and it feels wonderful. And I don't know how many of you have had the experience of going into the ocean naked, but I just recently got this as an adult, like in the last 8 to 10 years, and I literally started bawling. It was the most beautiful experience I'd ever had, the most sensual experience I'd ever had with nature by far. And it was so pleasurable feeling the waves coming in between my legs and underneath my breast and touching parts of my body that I had never experienced before. And I was just so elated by the whole experience. I couldn't believe that I had waited so long to go naked in the ocean, of all things, right? So that's a little bit. I want to hear from you gals. What are you getting? What are you hearing?
Well, first off, way to give like permission to all of us to like have that ecstatic exploration around self-pleasure, right? And it doesn't even have to be related to sex. You're just saying, give yourself permission to explore what brings you pleasure in life. And that feels so good, like, yes, long walks resonate with me. I do that all the time. And it's like such a good, just clears my mind. It brings me pleasure.
Right.
By the way I feel really empowered by that.
Totally. And, in the realm of like self-pleasure, there are so many things. Pleasure for our smell. Like, I have such a sensitive scent or olfactory system that to me, like, having yummy scents around the house, like, really brings me pleasure. It lifts me up and literally like can take me into another place. And I love the pleasure and the sensation of smelling something like tangerine in the air and just like, like a tangerine smashed in your face. It just smells so good. Trish is laughing at me.
No, I love it. Like, I invite our listeners and our viewers to type in what are the things that just bring you so much joy and pleasure that you're like, oh my God, this is the thing. Like, I mean, I've got a few of those too. Like, I love kitty lips. I don't know why, but it makes me go, like a little like, and when they smile at the corner of their, oh God, I love that so much. Or rusty metal things. I love rusty metal things. Like when you find it out in the like old rusty machinery, like like the old kind, or like things that you'll find. Like, oh God, it's just like touch. I like to touch it. Like even like kind of the smell of it. Like there's a lot of it smells nostalgic. I don't know. Like who knows? But there's places that bring Lilikoi is one of my favorite tastes. And that just totally blisses me out. I get like gleeful and giddy. So I'm totally resonating with these places of like a smashed tangerine in your face can be like, because we're, a bunch of, I mean, I'm gonna drop this out there in the world. Y'all are weirdos. It's okay. we like them. It's okay to do that. It's okay to be unique. You don't have to be like everyone else. And, so we all have our things that bring us joy and pleasure and sense that we love.
We just got a trampoline, and it's been so good for our son, with COVID, not as much kid play dates going on, and so it's been such a place of like pleasure for my son and I. We'll just take mini trampoline breaks, and it's like the long one, and it's awesome because we just like jump and laugh, and it's been so healing and fun, and just such a sense of pleasure, just like this being in the sun. It's great.
Yeah. And that's one of my favorite things. I'm glad you said that. Like being naked in the sun, like what an amazing feeling to have the sun like kiss all over your body, and not just, not just the parts that we expose at the beach, but, all of them. Like I don't know if anybody's ever done downward dog facing the sun, but it does something to the body, right? Does it do something like when the sunshine hits your root chakra? It's just like, it's like
Nice way to say it, Tori. Nice.
What's that?
That was a nice way to say it. Have you seen the memes where it's called they're really funny. They're like butt sunning or something like that. Yes,
it's like a thing. Okay, all right. That's my challenge. That's my challenge to our viewers today. If you've never aimed your root chakra at the sun, you are in for a treat. Because that is pleasure. And then your eyes are going to be like glowing all day. It's so good.
Oh.
Okay. So some other things. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you're reminding me of my trips to the hot springs. Like,
anybody else like to go to the hot springs? I want to take it back a little bit to a conversation kind of that we were having before the show, which I think is really juicy. And also, again, just to point in that not everyone got this really vibrant education around sexuality. Yeah. I did. Well, I had conflicting parenting styles here. So my father and my stepmother never spoke about sex, and very Catholic and Christian mentality. It was like hush hush, like I kissed a boy once and was grounded. Like, I don't know, it was a whole thing. And I remember once when I was 16, we were watching Me, Myself, and Irene. And do you remember the movie? Mm-hmm. Well, this big dildo in his hand, and he's like waving it all over the place. And my dad laughed. And I swear to God, I looked and I was like, oh my God, they have sex. Like, believe it. I had no idea. I was 16 years old by the time that I realized that my father and his wife had sex. It was just like, whoa. But then on the other side of that, I had parents like you, Tori, where they were like, they sat down with me and they were like, we know you've been dating a guy. We know you have sex. I mean, even before that, they were like, hey, here's this Adam and Eve catalog. Okay, I got to remember, I grew up in Montana. And so it's not like we could just go to a sex shop, but they were like, here's this Adam and Eve catalog. Is there anything that you want? Do you orgasm regularly on your own? How is your sex life? What does it look like? And I was like, shit. I didn't know what to do.
Your mom?
My mom and my stepdad.
Got it.
And they really, they were swingers. They were sweet. They were loving. They were really open with me. My mom would hint the joy of sex. She would be like, here's an anatomy book, and here's the joy of sex. If there's anything in here that you have questions about, just let me know. And I was like, okay. And I do remember pleasuring myself at an early age, like finding that, my breasts and my vagina were really sensitive spots. Like even just like touching my face and my body, like I remember that. I don't remember when I found it, but I remember not knowing how to talk about it or that something wasn't right about it. And I wanted to just bring that kind of conversation in because we were having this amazing conversation about parenting, sexuality, and around, like stripping away the shame, our own shame, and how we raise our children. And I think this is a really, really important topic around, especially, around our sexuality, but especially that when we de-shamify sex for us, that it literally, like, we can step forward and raise our children without the shame of sex. Because that's, you know, as we parent our children, we are reparenting our little ones. That's just my thought. I don't have kids, so.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because this is a great topic. And so for me, I know that I started self-pleasuring at a really young age, and I want to say I was around 2. And I know that I was having orgasms from about that time on, regularly, consistently. And I know that's pretty unusual. I know, like, a lot of people, girls say maybe between like 7 and 12 they started, and a lot of boys, they don't start till around 10 and above, 10 to 12, or later. And I know that is shocking. That might be shocking to hear that somebody was self-pleasuring that young. But I really want to normalize just how this happens. And they've shown that babies, even in utero, are touching themselves and experiencing pleasure. Like, boys have been seen like touching themselves and their hands moving across their penis, and it's not a big deal. It's happening as babies. It's natural for us to touch ourselves and discover pleasure. Pleasure is our birthright. Let me say that again. Pleasure is your birthright.
Yes. Let's just make that the declaration. Pleasure is my birthright.
Yeah, pleasure is my birthright. And, there's nothing more natural than being in discovery of our own bodies and what we like and what feels good and what doesn't feel good. And so much easier to tell another what we like and what we don't like when we've spent some time with our own bodies, discovering our own bodies and what we like and what we don't like, and what turns us on and what brings us to orgasm quickly and what may take a while. And I want to speak to those out there who may have never have experienced an orgasm before. And, it's a beautiful opportunity to get in touch with yourself and give yourself permission to experience really amazing, blissful pleasure by just being with yourself and honoring yourself and knowing that you can handle whatever feelings, emotions, or anything that comes up. You're totally safe in exploring your own body. Yeah. So,
Gorgeous.
and a few ways. So I want to start by saying, before I get into your topic, because I'm definitely going to dive into parenting and self-pleasure and what that looks like. But I also I really want to give just a little lay of the land and like what self-pleasuring looks like, because it's more than just trying to take us to O-Town. There's some romance involved. Like, I like to romance myself. I like to date myself. I like to do things for myself that I would want another to do for me. So when I set up a date for myself, it's like I'm buying myself flowers, I'm putting on nice perfume, and I'm doing it up. I'm shaving my legs for myself, because when I touch myself later, I want to feel smooth skin, and I appreciate how smooth my body is. And I get pleasure out of feeling how soft I am and acknowledging myself for taking such good care of my body.
Gorgeous.
Right? And I love, after a shower, I love to just take oil, whether it be all kinds of different oils, avocado oil, coconut oil, sunflower oil, and just lather my whole body in it, because I just feel it creates this warmth in my whole body, and I just feel loved. And sometimes I take a little bit more time, and I'll lay on my bed, and I'll actually take time to massage the parts of my body that actually feel sore. Now, granted, I'm a massage therapist for a living, but let me tell you, there's nothing like receiving massage. One of the best ways to learn massage is by receiving massage, even if it's from yourself. because you'll start to learn like, okay, that's too much pressure. Okay, when I squeeze there, that's a little awkward. And when I get into these areas, ooh, that doesn't feel as good. And you're actually going to learn so much about massage to give to others, and then also what you like. And then you can explain that to somebody else, as well as just like enjoying your own touch.
Yes.
Yeah. You guys want to add anything?
No, it's so important what you're saying. Like, I was a massage therapist for many years in my life, many moons ago, and it's a practice my husband and I like to share. We'll massage each other sometimes, and it's so loving. It's such a loving way to just exchange energy, and it doesn't have to be sexual. It can be just a true like healing touch, and I also massage myself, and he even bought us, just recently, a few months ago, one of those really amazing massage guns that's just truly, those things are incredible. And for me, I work out, so that really has been very, very a sense of, if my hips get tight or my shoulder or, it's such a wonderful thing. And I really resonate with what you're saying so deeply. And it's that taking that time to self-care. You know what I mean? And I give myself an opportunity every week, after the week is done, my son likes to stay up late, and I give him the opportunity to play his video games and stay up late. So I'll have a moment before my husband even gets home from work to have a private moment with myself, to give myself that self-pleasure, and I even bought a new tool and toy for myself, and just to honor myself as a sexual, spiritual being and merge those two, right? Merge my energy in that way of adoring my body, caring for myself, and also energetically, spiritually caring for myself, as in that sense of just fully loving myself.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Especially in Love Coach Academy. One being light touch, and that's adding your prayers and your love and your appreciation and your gratitudes, and utilizing the light, just 10,000 thank yous to all of my abundance, 10,000 thank yous to my community, to my friends, to Dawn Light, and really using the touch for yourself, because it's also dropping you into your frontal lobe, right?
Yeah.
It's really relaxing the body, the parasympathetic nervous system, and just giving yourself touch. What I really love about self-pleasure and self-touch is that it takes the pressure off of someone else to meet those needs for you, and really allows you to get your needs met from yourself. So it is a self-sourcing, self-resourcing, and a sovereignty piece of yeah, I mean, I could go to my partner and be like, oh, I really want your touch. And I also can come to him in a place of being full already. What Dawn's saying is adoring and really giving myself the touch that I need, even before my husband gets home, even before my partner gets home, so that I'm full and I'm alive and I've adorned myself. I've adored myself, and I've, reached orgasm if that's what I want, instead of putting it on, hey, Tori, come on over. I'm going to use you for my orgasm, which is and also just the self-pleasuring piece. I'm a big proponent of sex and self-pleasure. Is that being able to speak to your partner or speak to other people and set them up for success. It's some people like it like this, and some people like it like this, and some people like it, but I just like it like this, or like this, or who knows? And I can set you up for success. It's actually that thing that most people like, or maybe the people that you've experienced in your life like that, I like it like this, or a little 10 degrees to the left, or I think it's a really, I mean, there's a zillion different types of bodies in the world, and there's people who have different genitalia and have different needs, and so finding what it is for you and finding what it is for me is really important, right? So that I can meet my own needs, but also to, if you're interested in having sexual interactions with other people, then you can set them up too for success.
Yeah. I want to speak into something that Don said a little earlier, and that's around, if you're a couple and you're giving each other massages, it's like, it's beautiful if some of those massages can be non-sexual massages, even if there's genital touch. I know that sounds crazy, but you can have genital touch without it being sexual, and it can be a sensual touch without it having to move into some sexual play. It can just be a massage. And that can be really healing for a lot of women, especially because typically, I don't want to say a man, but I want to say sometimes people can get excited giving somebody else a massage because you can get turned on touching somebody else. And then all of a sudden you've created an agenda that now you want to have sex with this person because you're so turned on giving them a massage. When in reality, what would be in the highest for the person on the table receiving the massage is to just be in a receiving mode and to complete the massage as just a massage.
Mm.
And like I said, even if it involves genital touch, because there's something really beautiful about being touched and having our labia touched, really gently and beautifully, and not have penetration and not have clitoral stimulation and not have it move into something where you're trying to be turned on, that you're actually just being touched to be touched. And it's just so beautiful. But that is a whole nother show that we could go into. So I just wanted to touch on that, like how important it is for couples, especially, to have massage that just ends in a massage, that doesn't go any further than that. And it can be really beautiful. It can end in cuddling. It can end in a lot of things. But to have a couple of massages be separate from sex.
Yes.
Yeah. Boy, you're bringing forward such a concept of like really deep self-honoring is what I'm hearing you share about, which is really powerful. I've done this in my own marriage. Like I've had moments where I really this really, I'll speak to this piece. So when I started graduate school, I was still healing these parts of like that dynamic of the, sex and money dynamic that my parents struggled with was still playing out in my own marriage at that point in time when I was entering into graduate school. So I actually got the sacred opportunity from a friend to say, hey, why don't you go do a really powerful ritual around it and, make it holy, make it sacred, and really initiate balance into your marriage. And so I did this. I had a beautiful client pay me, and I went and treated my husband and I to a beautiful place, Bodega Bay Lodge, actually. And we went there, and I got a room, and it's like they had like a really gorgeous hot tub and a pool, and we were able to enjoy the facility. But when we were by ourselves in our room, I really built a beautiful altar, and I sat him down in front of it, and I shared my whole intention around what the energy was and what I was bringing forward to initiate into our marriage. And I had all these like beautiful items, and I brought forward this like, it's like a little, it has a long feather on it, and it has a little handle and like a few feathers on it. And I used that and just like literally like rubbed it across his eyes and his ears, and I spoke beautiful things into him, and just was like, I appreciate how you see in the world. And I really acknowledge, like, and I just gave him this like praise as I was touching his body. I linked the two together. It was so healing for him. And it didn't have to do with any intention around, like, I had no intention of taking it into a place of like needing to have sex at that moment. It was truly of a place of self-honoring and honoring who he is in my life as my husband and as my sacred beloved, right? And I saw it as there is no separation. Like, I'm truly honoring myself as I'm honoring him, right? And like, that's it. Like, so it was really the intention to lay down any need to withhold from one another. And what I mean by withholding is the places where we've carried shame in our own experiences as young ones, as children, as whatever comes forward in our life, right? Like, I had a lot of shame that I was hiding away because it was scary to walk into, my parents were swingers as well, and like in their living room at 5 years old and see this entire sex party going on, or like the pornos my dad had in the video player, VHS, when I was a child, and like I was indoctrinated to believe that it was a shameful thing, right? And so that all had to be released from my psyche and my being, and thankfully I have a loving husband to allow that to happen. So when I initiated saying, like, let's really initiate with any withholding, lay down any need to withhold from one another, because that's just blocking our intimacy, blocking our connection to be really deep with one another and to have a solid, stable foundation that we desire in our marriage in every way. And so that ritual really was so powerful. And then, more than 2 years later, after graduate school, we were able to complete it with a beautiful bookend ritual, because all the healing had really taken place. And like now, like our lovemaking is to the next level. We've always had really powerful lovemaking, but it's even exponentially most out the roof. Like the way we're loving on one another and experiencing our love in our marriage is so enjoyable and lovely and connected. And all the places we used to have sticky places we would fight, we don't even have that conversation anymore. It's just a beautiful conversation now. I'm not playing out that pattern that was my parents.
Oh, that's
when
so
I really
good.
was able to see it, when I was able to identify what was going on and then do the powerful work on myself and really explore, where is this? What are the parts inside that are creating this? How can I take responsibility for it? And how can I initiate it into a conversation in my marriage so that we can rewrite it together as a union?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So good. I love it. So good.
And that kind of ritual can be done with oneself, right?
Oh, yeah.
That self-honoring practice of really just like setting time with you. Ooh, I have something I want to share. It's kind of private. Being, as our viewers and our listeners know, that I've struggled one of my whole life with codependency and really placing my needs on other people, or really molding myself to someone else's needs. And so over the course of the last 2 years, I've spent a lot of time as, in kind of crunchy, relationships, but also a lot of time really refocusing my thoughts on myself and what my own pleasure looks like. And one of the practices that I've been doing is to, when I fantasize, to imagine myself with myself, as, to really give myself the love and attention and the pleasure. I mean, I know that it's not coming from an ego place. It's really coming from a place of giving myself what I need, rather than putting my pleasure on someone else or putting the needs on someone else, and to really give myself the self safety in my sexuality that only I can actually give me. And that's something this practice has really given me, as an opportunity to like really fall into love and like with the scared, intimate parts of me, into my sexuality, and to really like honor the places where I have had and held shame in my sexuality. Is like, oh gosh, is that okay? And to be able to like show up for me. There's a lot of inner child work that all of us do, but there's a lot of like human adult stuff that we have to do with ourselves, even especially around sexuality. So it's very kind of intimate share.
Yeah, I love it. Good stuff. Yeah, and like Trish was saying, you can definitely take the rituals that Dawn did with her husband, do them with yourself, and really create either agreements with yourself or a marriage with yourself. Like, there's so many beautiful ways that you can honor yourself, and setting boundaries is definitely one of those ways to honor yourself in creating those relationships of your dreams. And I'm right there with you, Trish, when you're talking about codependency, and really like working through that for the last couple of years and not molding yourself into what somebody else wants to be, And I know that I've done that with my sexuality a lot in relationships, where I've tried to either, lessen who I am sexually, or just try to make somebody else feel comfortable by not being fully self-expressed in my sexuality. So yeah, there's a lot of work to be done around that area, and I know I'm certainly doing mine. So I want to talk about self-pleasure a little bit more and get into a little bit more of the nuts and bolts out there and the tools that I love and use, and why I think it's so important that we know ourselves and know our bodies and that sort of thing. I'm a huge advocate. Are you spotlighting me?
Yes.
You're so funny. I'm a huge advocate of self-pleasuring in the shower. It's one of my favorite places, and that may be taboo to say in California in a drought, and I apologize if that's offensive to anybody out there. I do try to be conservative with water, and I take care of the earth all the time. And I love my showers. I am so turned on by water, and as you heard me say earlier, getting into the ocean, having the experience of the waves, touching my yoni, grazing my inner thighs and my breast, it was so exhilarating. And I experienced the same thing in the shower when I turn on the water and I just let the water fall on me, and the beads of water, I could just feel the warmth wrapping around me like a blanket, and it does something to me. It totally turns me on. It totally wakes me up and has me be so connected to my body and the sensations in my body. And typically I'm turned on by the sound of the water even starting to run. And so I have a removable shower head, and I like to take the shower head down and self-pleasure and bring myself to orgasm, and using my breath and using sound, and just really take that time for myself. And other times I like to, hop into a jacuzzi and use the jacuzzi jets. That's something that I discovered when I was younger, and it was amazing to have the experience of the jets hitting me and the warmth of the water. And it was they're pretty fantastic orgasms to be had in the jacuzzi. And if you're not much of a water person, touching yourself with your hand is also awesome. Other things like vibrators. I am not as much of an advocate for vibrators. They always have their time and place. And so I'm not saying don't use them. But too much use of really anything with a lot of pressure can start to create some desensitizing and some numbness. And so it's always important to be careful with what you're using, that you don't numb yourself, so that you remain sensitive to touch, is what I'm trying to say. So those are some of the tools that I have. And as well as just, I do have dildos and that sort of thing that I use to self-pleasure with as well. I've also used food items like a cucumber if I didn't have anything else on hand. Like, I love to explore with different types of things. So things that you wouldn't normally think to use. If you don't have a vibrator and you just happen to have an electric toothbrush, you'd be amazed at how amazing an electric toothbrush can feel. And I would like to hear from you ladies. What are some of the tools that you ladies use? What are some of your favorite self-pleasuring tools? Look at Trisha's smile. She looks like she's done self-pleasuring.
I heard the toothbrush story earlier.
That's why she's smiling. I got it.
I know. I was like, hee hee.
I love May's comment. So, hi, May. She said clitoral sucking vibrators don't desensitize, and they are incredible. Never used toys in my life. Yes, they are incredible. I just bought one a few months ago, and I love it. It's like amazing. For all the ladies out there, if you don't know about this toy, go explore it. Look it up on Amazon. It's amazing.
What's it called again?
It's I think that the one company is called Tracy Dog, I think is the name of it. But I just ordered mine off of Amazon. It's like a clitoral sucking vibrator. It's incredible. It has like a G spot and it's incredible.
Yeah.
There's for all women out there, go get this thing. It's incredible. It'll rock your world in an amazing way.
Yeah, May Love says the one that I have is also called the Womanizer, which is a terrible name. There's
terrible
one
name.
Satisfier. There's Lilo. Yeah, there's like the clitoral ones they are really amazing.
Lilo products are incredible. I have a Lilo also, and they're great.
Yes.
These are great.
Things that I love. Come back to me for a second. Let me think about it.
Okay.
Oh, wait, actually, I do have this one.
Okay.
I recently bought one that's metal and that's shaped kind of like a U.
Okay.
And it's a G-spot stimulator. It's like a stick shift. I have wrist issues. Okay, here we go. I have wrist issues, and I have I can't just do the things. So I have to be really gentle with my wrist and not move it as much. And so I bought one of these things, and so it's really heavy on one side and it's really light on the other. So it just kind of like has this way that it'll rest on my G-spot. I also love this one called the Crave, and it has 2 little rabbit ears. And that it has 2 alternating engines, whatever, not an engine. I've been hanging out with my boyfriend a lot. Motors. I'm like, he's like engines and trucks. I'm like, oh yeah, 2 different motors. This is over here and this is over here. So it's like this is all. It's like crazy. I just got a couple toys for my my stepmom runs a company called Pure Romance. Not runs a company, but she's like I don't know what it's called, a representative. And we just tried this new. I just got this new one. I haven't tried it yet, but it's like kind of like goes like this, and you can stick a penis in there or something else, and then it has like little rabbit ears that go woo. So I'm excited to try those.
Those all sound really amazing.
These are the technical terms.
I have something else that I actually want to share. So I'm, like I was saying earlier, I'm a huge fan of water. I love to just experience water splashing on my yoni. And so if you don't have a shower head, putting your butt right under the faucet and your legs up the wall is also a great way to experience the same sensation of water. And then a friend was just telling me about how they were at a river and they were just sitting in the water in the river, and the water coming down rushing was hitting them in such a way that they ended up having an orgasm.
Woo!
And I was like, hell yeah, eco-sex. That is so amazing. Like, I'm all about, I don't know if any of you have sat in like the trunk of a tree. Like, so picture here's the trunk of the tree and then it splits off into 2 different branches. Have you sat here on the branch of the tree and just like let your legs fall? I remember as a kid that I would masturbate. I would self-pleasure on trees. Like, I would just sit there and like rock myself on trees. Like, there's something so sensual about nature. And there's so many things in nature that you can actually, with nature's permission and consent to enjoy your self-pleasuring. There are boulders out there that are, laying in the sun all day long, and they're so warm. You put your body up against them and have this amazing connection, sensual, sexual connection with the earth. And I'm curious if anybody watching has had a similar experience, or if either of you ladies have had any ecosexual experiences.
Ecosexuality is really lovely. And for those of you who are BDSM friendly, there's an Instagram channel that's called Sacred Sadism. And they play with plants and all sorts of dirt and all sorts of things. It's really fun. But ecosexuality is lovely. I've played with flowers before. I like the sensation of like juicy fruits and stuff like that. But I don't know. Rubbing it against a tree, I could really imagine that.
Yeah.
I've brought flower petals into like a lovemaking ritual before, and like thrown them all over the bed and all like, adorn your body with them. They smell so intoxicating. And
Mhm. That's really fun. I had somebody once take all the rose petals off of the stems, put them in a bowl, and then stick them in the refrigerator. Okay.
Oh,
And then you take the bowl out of the refrigerator and you stick your whole face in these cold rose petals. And I can't even tell you, the experience was like something off the charts. Like just the silkiness of the plant and the scent and the coolness of them. It was like, wow, so amazing. Definitely recommend it. Highly recommend it to anybody who's never tried it.
mm.
So I love, like you're saying, Don, like taking the roses and stuff and using them to like, gently trace somebody's face or tickle them or anything like that is really wonderful. And there are so many things that we can use, even like Trish was saying, like feathers and things like that, to touch ourselves, and just create different sensations to like really wake up our sensations. And I know a lot of people experience like just body numbness, right? This is a great way to start bringing awareness and sensation back to your body, is these exercises, whether you're squeezing or you're light touching. Like it's a great way to just start being aware of like what's happening to your body and connect to the touch as it's happening. And it's safe because you're doing all the touching, so it's not going to go anywhere you don't want it to go. And it's beautiful reconnection, a beautiful way to recalibrate your connection with your own body. And one of the ways that I love to self-massage, because it's so easy and it feels so amazing, is giving myself a foot massage. Because you can just sit anywhere, turn your foot over, and just go to town on it. And it just feels so good, right? And it's like, who doesn't want to receive a foot massage? Like that's one way that you can give yourself like a really yummy massage. And your body literally lives, the whole imprint of your body literally lives on the sole of your foot. So the tops of your toes correlate to your head, and then it moves down the body. That's what reflexology is. It correlates to your whole body. So you can actually work out your digestive problems through the sole of your foot, or you can actually work that headache through your toes. So there's so many ways that we can work with our body through our feet. And you can find all kinds of information online about that, charts for reflexology and what correlates to what. And really like spend some time loving on yourself, spend some time with your feet, and it's amazing how invigorated you will feel after you give yourself a foot massage. Yeah.
Mm. For a lot of women, the feet are an erotic place. And
oh yeah.
I'm not exactly sure. Like I've hung out with a lot of sex workers and a lot of exotic dancers, and it's just like this one place is a place that doesn't get touched, right? It's so there's an intimacy and a relaxation there because you're wearing heels and you're doing all these things, and I think that it's a really beautiful place of like to relax the body, to touch some place that is really sacred and sweet. And there's so many practices in the world around really honoring the feet, the place that someone walks upon the earth. And I love that idea. I love that so much.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome.
I just want to tap back onto, self-pleasure without the necessity for orgasm is also really important. I really love what you said there, like, especially with your person, with your partner or your people.
Yeah.
Whatever you got going on. That even with yourself, it's just like to be able to self pleasure, to be in whatever pleasure state, including sexual pleasure state, without the pressure of orgasm, and to be able to build that up even as well. Like, okay, I'm not gonna orgasm today. And men have practices like this, and women can also do these practices, right? Is to really like build that orgasmic potential up as you kind of just like give yourself the opportunity to plateau and to level into just like walking in pleasure. Today I'm not going to orgasm in my self-pleasure program. So I'm going to just, stop at a certain point and let all those endorphins wash over my body. And that's how I'm going to move through the world.
Yeah.
In that hyper pleasure state.
Yeah.
So good.
Beautiful.
Now, I'm curious if any of our watchers have any questions or anything like that. Oh, wait, hold on. We actually did not get into the topic of parenting and self-pleasure yet. So,
all right, take it away.
Yeah. So as parents, like, it can be some of the most awkward conversations when you have your kids coming at you asking you questions about sex. And what do you do? Like, what's the best thing to do? Well, I would say the best thing to do really is to be honest with your children, as honest as you can possibly be with what they're asking. And the reason why is because if they go out into the world and they take this information with them, and let's say they share it with somebody who actually has accurate information, then they're left with that, my parents give me bad information. I can't trust them. I've got to go seek out information about sex elsewhere. And it really cuts off that level of trust and safety that kids need with their parents in order to have these difficult, conversations. And trust that it's as difficult for them as it is for you, because they're curious and they don't want to be in trouble. And the worst thing that we can do for our kids is shame them around sex or self-pleasuring or anything of that nature. And I will share this, it's, man, it's such a finicky road, and it's so hard. Like, being a recovering codependent, like, how do I show up as like a strong parent doing the right thing in the world? And what is that anyways? According to who? Like, who sets these standards? So, the best advice I can give is really do your own work around your own shame around sexuality before you start talking to your kids about sex. And if you have a lot of shame around sexuality, be willing to do that work. Otherwise, you're literally just going to be handing down those same beliefs to your children, and they're going to carry forth the shame. And like I said, touching ourselves, it's natural. Pleasure is our birthright, and our children are naturally going to find their own bodies with their hands. And I would say better them than somebody else, Yeah. It's okay. Let them explore their bodies and let them get to know who they are in that way. I just made it simple with my kids. It's, do it in private, just take yourself somewhere, enjoy yourself, and it's all good. It's a beautiful thing. So I know that might be shocking to a lot of parents to hear that, like, it's okay that our children touch themselves. And if you can, have that conversation with them without, insinuating any shame or any wrongdoing, then you're totally ahead of the game. Just bring forth your love. And if you honestly don't know what to do, give me a call. This is what I do. I love to coach parents in how to have these conversations with their children and keep their values in mind. Like, how can I share what I know without shaming them?
Yeah. That's powerful. Like, I can honestly say I have a 10-year-old right now, and we were just watching a movie this last week. I'll share this piece. And I don't think my son is really at that place where he's really like self-pleasuring a lot or anything just yet. He's 10, but he's just in this curious phase. We were watching a movie, and I had no idea that the movie was going to have this like sexual part in it, right? but it came forward, and it was about a married couple that were going off, and like everything that could go wrong went wrong, and it was a comedy, and it was one of those things, and it was really funny. But the couple brought this giant like sex toy, like dildo kind of vibrating thing. It didn't really, it showed the box, it didn't show the tool, and it showed him plugging it into the wall. But they were in like a Swiss chalet in the movie, and he was plugging a European like plug into American plug into a European wall, and it burned the whole wall, and it burned like it shot out the whole electricity in the Swiss chalet. So it was really funny, but it was such a pivotal moment because my son was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "Well, that is an adult sex toy." And I didn't feel that I had to hide or make any big deal out of it. I was like, I'm just going to be honest, you know what I mean? And really explain. And it gave me such freedom to say, look, that's an adult. And he was like, ew, he's made such an ew face and just was like, grossed out by it. But I was like, look, honey, these are all things you're going to learn about. And I want to be here for you to have these conversations. And I just kind of set the stage to have like a healthy conversation about like, if you're curious, if you want to know things, you can come to me, you can ask me questions. I'm always going to be honest with you about and I had this powerful conversation with him, and it just gave us a bond of connection between mother and son of like, this is a safe place to like, you can be yourself, and you can ask me anything, and I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that felt so liberating because I didn't have that as my mom did her best to be honest with me about things, but there were a lot of things they just didn't share, they didn't talk about. And and of course, like I became like very curious young, you know what I mean? I started having sex young, like I felt like at 15 that's young for a girl. Mm-hmm. And so, but it was because of their dynamic and keeping it hidden, right, that made me draw towards it and be curious. So if there was more openness, would have I been that way as an adult? Probably not, right? If they were just more open and not this like, hey, no, that's taboo, you can't go there, you know what I mean? You can't do that. Yeah. And it's really common knowledge, like in psychology, that, one child out of the whole, children order, one of the children will play out all the secrets of the family. Mm-hmm. So I just happened to be that was me. That was my role.
What do they call those?
Say it again.
What do they call those? Black sheep?
No, not necessarily, but yeah, I mean, black sheep is its own thing, but it's one child. It doesn't even have to be in the pecking order. It doesn't have to be the baby. It can be any child, but there'll be an agreement unconsciously between the family members. One of them will be the one that really, and the child will not know the family secrets, but if you watch them, they'll act out the family secrets because that's just the nature of how psychology works in the family unit. So it's fascinating, and it ended up being that way for me as a child. Like, I used to drag all my little girlfriends into the bathroom because I found my dad's porn stash and was like, oh my God, look at this. And just like, I was young. I was like 12, 11, and I was just so curious about it all. And I just wish that my mother would have shared more openly and been like, oh, I see you're curious about that. Let's look at it. This is what this is. This is what this is. Like, you know what I mean? And shared more openly. And so I am rewriting this actively with my own son coming of age, and having these active conversations with my husband about it. Like I immediately told my husband about the story, about the movie. And like, I was like, let's, set him up for success. Like, let's have healthy conversations with him. Let's set him up for success so he doesn't feel like he has to go explore on his own and then have issues from that exploration when he can just feel free to ask questions as a parent.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love this.
Love it. I really honor my dad for being so brave. When I was a kid and we were sitting in a movie theater together.
These active conversations with my husband.
Sorry.
Oh. And we were in a movie theater together. We were watching a movie called Bloxy Blues. And in the middle of the movie, they mentioned the word blowjob. And I didn't know what it meant. And it was just my dad and I turned and I looked at my dad and I said, Dad, what's a blowjob? And he sat there for a second, cleared his throat, and he looks at me and he goes, well, it's when a man sticks his penis inside of a woman's mouth. And I went, oh, and I sat down in my chair. But bless him for just saying what it was and not like trying to make it into something else or, you know, or showing me off to my mom, ask your mother, or, you know, it really takes something for parents to speak the truth and not have it be awkward. And it's awkward and it's okay. Like awkward moments are going to happen. Embrace them. It's okay. You're not going to die from awkward moments. And it's really important to be honest with your children, you know,
It's
about
really important to be honest with your children.
Yes.
it's really important. Ding. It's really important to be honest with them, especially about sex. Because they'll go seek out the information, you know, like Dawn was saying, when you have like a situation where the information is so repressed, then now you just get curious about it. Like, what is this thing that's like so taboo that we can't talk about? Of course, kids aren't saying taboo, but what's this thing that's so secretive that we can't talk about it? I got to go figure out what it is now. And that's what happens. And sometimes they get bad information or misinformation from kids whose parents are also not telling them the truth.
Or they're getting it from all the many sites that you can find, which is not like we know that's not healthy sexuality.
Right.
You know? So it's, if we can just
and I actually want to speak into that a little bit because, you know, having a son myself and knowing that this is the age where they start to get into pornography and that sort of thing. And we had a situation where, where my son was looking at something and his dad was like upset about it. And I had a talk with his dad and his dad didn't really complete the talk with him. And I was concerned that it was leaving my son feeling like he did something wrong. And so when I brought the conversation up to my son, I said, hey, like, did you get a chance to complete this conversation with dad? And, what were you left with? And he was like, well, I was left with, that I did something wrong, essentially. And so my conversation with him is like, look, you didn't do anything wrong. I totally get that you're curious. I said, and I also get your dad's concern and that he's concerned that you might get addicted to it or you might think that this is normal and this isn't what having sex actually looks like. It's certainly not what making love looks like. And so it's not good information for you. And you didn't do anything wrong. And there's actually videos out there that are more that are healthier for you to watch. And so it's really like having the awareness to be able to direct our kids to things that will satisfy their curiosity without sending them down the wrong path. So just know that I think there's something really amazing about a split household that has two totally opposing views on sexuality. And the reason why is because the child's going to get a flavor of both. Totally sex positive and totally shamed and all the things, right? And from that place, the child can choose what actually works best for them. So you don't have to worry if you're the sex positive mom or you're the conservative one and you've got the other parent on the other side who's in complete opposition to your beliefs and values. Your child is going to see both and is ultimately going to make the best decision for themselves.
Yes.
And that's ultimately what we want for our kids, right?
Yes.
So that used to be a point of contention for me, was that my ex and I were at such opposite ends of things. But I just really got through a mentor, through some coaching, that it was actually a gift because they get to see both sides. They're exposed to more. And so from there, they can make a more well-rounded decision rather than just from what they're programmed with. So anyways, that's my little
talk about that. Total.
I can speak to that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ladies, this has been such a wonderful show.
Yeah, thank you.
Conversation to really show up in our full fuck yes, in our full juicy self pleasure, and to really have the conversation about, what it looks like to be honest with ourselves and our sexual desires and our pleasure, and dancing with our pleasure with our partners, and also talking about it with our children. And I think that this is such, God, we could speak forever about this, and I think that we should. And we should really have a conversation at a later time about how to speak to your children around sexuality. Because I think that this is a really important topic. And I think that for anybody who's watching and listening right now, to really give us your questions around that, so that, our beautiful Miss Toree Love here can really share some really amazing points on that. I think it's so important.
Feel free to reach out. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for having me on the show. I must sign off now. Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you.
Thank you, Tori, for being here. You're such a lovely, lovely, lovely woman, and we appreciate all your valuable information you bring forward to share with our viewers today.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a total pleasure to be here, and I look forward to this next conversation, Trish, because I really want to continue this conversation for sure.
Yes.
It's a big part of my heart too. I love children's education. And thank you all for watching. Thank you all of our viewers. Oh, yes.
I just want to put in a little plug real quick. This summer, the International School of Temple Arts is creating a family fusion around sexuality and around how we can talk to our children around sexuality. So if you are interested in a week-long deep dive this August in Northern California, please reach out to me and I will give you more information on ISTA Family Fusion.
All right.
Right on.
Thank you all.
And for all of you women who are really wanting to, have support and reclaim your trust in yourself and in the world and in your partners and in all your relationships, Dawn and I have a beautiful group, mostly Dawn because she's running it right now. I've been playing around in the desert, as you all know. So go ahead and click the link and join the group. Thank you to Love Coach.
Thank you, everybody.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.